Dumelang, welcome to Face the Nation. My name is Clement Manyatela. Great to have you with us here on SABC News. On the show tonight, it's the parliamentary inquiry versus the Madlanga Commission. MPs were divided yesterday over whether the KZN Police Commissioner Mkhwanazi should be subpoenaed, given that he has indicated to the ad hoc committee investigating the allegations he made that he's only available after his appearance at the Madlanga Commission. There are now questions over which inquiry should take precedence. The chair of the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee, Soviet Lekganyane, faces the nation tonight. Also on the show, why did the Higher Education Minister Buti Manamela ask the Public Service Commission to vet administrators he has already appointed to the SETA's board that he has placed under administration? Why is the vetting done after the fact? The Public Service Commissioner, Professor Somadoda Fikeni, joins us. And then later, what is going on with the Southern African music rights organization, SAMRO? Artists are frustrated over unpaid royalties. There are also concerns around governance failure. So tonight, we hear from the SAMRO CEO, Annabelle Lebete. We also hear from one of the artists, Mzwake Mbuli. But first, my comment. So, should KZN Police Commissioner Mkhwanazi be subpoenaed to appear before the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee investigating allegations he made of corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system? This is what the members of Parliament debated yesterday. The committee finally decided it won't subpoena him. Instead, it will wait for him to appear before the Madlanga Commission first and then come to the committee. Remember, Mkhwanazi is currently consulting with evidence leaders around his testimony, the evidence leaders from the Madlanga Commission ahead of that anticipated start next week on the 17th of September. He has since told the parliamentary inquiry that the Madlanga Commission has locked him in until the 22nd or 24th of September, meaning he would only be available to come to the committee after that date. But the EFF leader, Julius Malema, is unhappy about this. Take a listen to what he said in Parliament yesterday.
The reality is that, and I'm doing this deliberately because I know you are scared for Mkhwanazi to come and appear before that committee. And if it was of your own making, Mkhwanazi was not going to appear before that committee. So you are playing with the public. You established a committee, creating an impression that you are doing something when you are doing nothing. You are busy over nothing. So the reality of the situation is that you don't want Mkhwanazi. And even when that time comes, you are going to start other excuses. There is nothing that stops Mkhwanazi from coming to us. You have now created an impression that this commission is bigger than us. And we as parliament must be going to the commission. The commission people never say, let's go to parliament to hear what that parliament is saying. But because you are scared, you feel so inferior, you don't know what you are doing. You want to be checking with the commission because you can't stand on your own. So we maintain that Mkhwanazi must be subpoenaed, and a person who doesn't appear before your committee won't say to you, I want to appear before your committee, hey, and I'm defying. Where have you ever had that? They are going to give you all manner of reasons, and one of the reasons is the reason we're given. No, I'm busy with these other people. A person postpones you without a date of a commission and agree to appear to a commission which does not have a date. It only announced the date few days ago, and you accept that as being reasonable.
Well, the DA's Glenis Breitenberg had this to say.
It's not essential, Chairperson. It's only ideal. If we can't have him and we start with somebody else, we know what he's going to say. He's going to say what he said at the press conference. If he says anything different to that, that's problematic. So it's not as if we're working in the dark. We know what he's going to come and say. And so while it is ideal to start with him, if it means that we're going to be held up for weeks and months, then I would suggest that we forego that ideal situation and start with someone else. Because we can't keep on postponing and postponing and postponing. We're going to already have to ask for an extension as it is. If we don't get started before late October or November, and that's going to be a real problem. I'm happy to work, as I've said before, on public holidays, on weekends. That's not an issue. You may find that other people are not so happy to work. So, bearing in mind that we have a job to do and we need to get it done, we may have to reconsider the order in which we call witnesses.
The chair of the Parliamentary Inquiry, Soviet Lekganyane, then announced the final decision.
Honorable members, we have taken a decision that the route to subpoena General Mkhwanazi is not desirable, given the reasons that have been advanced by committee members that General Mkhwanazi is not refusing to appear before the committee. Unfortunately, he finds himself in the situation that he is because both arms of the state, Parliament and the executive, have appointed an ad hoc committee and a commission respectively, which makes his life as a citizen of this republic very, very difficult. So we will wait, honorable members, for General Mkhwanazi to be available to appear before the committee.
So that's the final decision that was taken by the chair of the committee. But don't you get part of Malima's point? I mean, I don't entirely agree that Mkhwanazi must be subpoenaed. As the chair said, it's not like he's refusing to appear before the ad hoc committee. He's just been locked until the Madlanga inquiry is done with him. And he was booked by the Madlanga inquiry first. But there's a bigger question here about which inquiry is more important in the context of accountability and who has the authority and power to hold public officials accountable. The parliamentary inquiry should take precedence here. It shouldn't be seen as junior or inferior to the Madlanga Commission. One, because it's Parliament that's constitutionally obligated to hold the executive and the public officials accountable, not the Madlanga Commission. In fact, the Commission exists to hold public hearings, to probe further, to investigate, and make recommendations to the President, like all commissions do. But they don't have powers to make binding recommendations. Remember what Advocate Matthew Chuckleson, Senior Counsel, said, who is one of the evidence leaders at this Madlanga inquiry?
Are our findings binding? And there the law is clear, our findings are not binding. All that we can do is make a recommendation to the President. Our recommendation doesn't bind the President, it doesn't bind the people in respect of whom we make those recommendations or make those findings. So essentially the function of this body is to conduct a public hearing for the purposes of making recommendations to the President. We don't make findings that are binding. The President, we hope, will act on recommendations that are made, but our recommendations are not binding on the President or indeed on anybody else.
So the Madlanga Commission's findings are not binding, and it can only make recommendations to the President, who is not forced to implement those recommendations. So if the President doesn't implement the recommendations of the Commission, he hasn't broken any law. But Parliament, on the other hand, has no choice but to vote on a report that comes out of the ad hoc committee and also implement it. And if it votes against an ad hoc committee report, you can also take that to court, because decisions of Parliament can be challenged. Whether MPs vote in support or against the report, that decision must still be rational. Remember the Nkandla judgment, that was the precedent that was set. So again, I ask then, if that really is the case, if there are more chances of there being accountability through a parliamentary process rather than a commission of inquiry, why then are we not saying Mkhwanazi must prioritize the parliamentary inquiry? So the question we're asking you tonight is, do you agree with the committee's decision not to subpoena General Mkhwanazi, and what do you think then takes precedence between this commission of inquiry and the parliamentary inquiry? You can send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 078 459 1897. Remember to tell us your name and your surname and where you are sending that voice note from. Alternatively, you can send us an X on @FaceTheNation SABC. Now, let's bring in the chairperson of this ad hoc committee that was established to investigate these allegations that General Mkhwanazi made. Soviet Lekganyane joins us now via video link. Mr. Lekganyane, thank you so much for making time. Good evening.
Good evening, Clement, and your viewers.
Why did the committee ultimately decide to wait for General Mkhwanazi to finish his testimony at the Madlanga Commission and not consider the subpoena as proposed by the EFF?
We wrote to General Mkhwanazi to invite him to come and do consultations with our legal team to prepare for his appearance before the committee. And then he wrote back to us to inform us that he has already been booked by the commission and that he's requested that we allow him to conclude his commitments with the commission. And once they are done, he will be available to appear before the committee. Mm-hmm. And further to that, the chairperson of the commission also respectfully wrote to us to request us that or to inform us that General Mkhwanazi was already with them and they were making a request that we should allow him to conclude his commitment with them. Mm-hmm. And in our interpretation of the correspondences that we had with them was that General Mkhwanazi showed a willingness to cooperate with the commission and he was not refusing to appear before the committee. And it was reasonable for us to grant him that request.
Mm. Which inquiry was established first here between the presidential commission and the parliamentary inquiry? And I'm asking that because as Parliament, you could have had the opportunity to get to him first.
Look, we could have had that opportunity. The commission as well could have had that opportunity. For sure, you remember, in our case, we spent about 2 or 3 meetings where we're discussing the terms of reference. Mm-hmm. And at that time, it was not going to be possible for us to initiate contact with the witnesses before the terms of reference were adopted by the committee, because the terms of reference is that basic document that guides the committee in its work. Mm-hmm. So we had to wait for the terms of reference to be adopted. And once the terms of reference were adopted, the committee determined a list of key witnesses that formed the first batch that had to appear before it. And at the time we started engaging with those witnesses was when General Mkhwanazi was already taken by the commission.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Julius Malema was saying yesterday that you're playing second fiddle here and juniorizing this committee, because there's a view out there that it's Parliament that must take precedence here. You are constitutionally obligated to hold these kind of public officials accountable. And in an instance like this, because you are the one that's likely to have a report that may lead more likely to consequence management than the commission of inquiry, then precedence stays with you as the parliamentary process.
Look, the constitutional architect of the Republic of South Africa is that you have what you call the trias politica, which are the 3 arms of the state: the parliament, the executive, and the judiciary. So, Clement, you are a citizen of this country, and your leadership has a responsibility to create an environment which does not put you in a dilemma as a citizen. So we are facing a situation where the leadership of this country, both at the level of Parliament and the executive, appointed the ad hoc committee and the commission respectively. None of us who are members of the ad hoc committee or those who are commissioners are witnesses. We have the same list of witnesses that must appear before us. And what requires of us is cooperation between the two arms of the state and between the ad hoc committee and the commission to ensure that we don't put ordinary citizens in the crossfire because of the powers and the authority that we have. I don't think that that will be good leadership. Anybody in a position of leadership will never want to do those things to his citizens. And I don't expect that you can have in any country citizens who desire to find themselves in a crossfire like that. I mean, the situation we find ourselves in is not out of General Mkhwanazi's creation, neither is it the creation of any of the witnesses. Those witnesses, all of them, are prepared to cooperate with both the ad hoc committee and the commission. So what we have to do is to rise to the occasion of leadership and create a conducive environment for them to appear before any of us. And I think as leadership, that is the best we can do to ordinary citizens.
Are there better chances here at accountability and in implementing whatever report that's produced with the commission or the parliamentary inquiry? I mean, the Madlanga Commission report, yes, is not binding. Pali, as I said, constitutionally obligated. And I wonder if there are chances here for you to also look at the evidence that was already provided to Parliament by General Mkhwanazi here, or are you not going to be investigating yourselves as Parliament? Because there are questions that have been raised around the evidence that he had already submitted when he appeared before Parliament, and that forms part of what he revealed in that press briefing.
Yes, he would have appeared before a portfolio committee of Parliament, which is the portfolio committee that plays oversight on the police. So we will get to consult the records of Parliament.
Yeah.
But for now, I think the best we can do is to wait for him to come and formally deposit a sworn statement with the committee. And that statement, we will be able to take it forward from there once we have a sworn statement from him.
So you will be asking questions if, for instance, what he said in that press briefing and what he's going to be saying to this ad hoc committee, he's already said to the portfolio committee on police and they did nothing about it. Those are the kind of questions you will be asking and to ensure there's...
The statement that he will be making with us will be the basic document. And then other statements, for instance, that he would have made with the commission, we can also request the commission to share that statement with us because it would also have been made under oath. Whatever presentation he would have made before a committee of Parliament, we can still request those records or the members of the committee or the chairperson of that committee to also come and share that information with us. And all of that information should be admissible before the committee.
So if you are going to now wait until the 22nd or 24th of September, are you still going to meet your October deadline to finalize everything?
Look, in terms of human experience, an anticipation is not possible by now. But for sure, you know that the resolution of Parliament is that we must report 31st of October. So it is for the leadership of Parliament to make a determination whether Parliament should give us an extension or Parliament sticks to the 31st October deadline.
Has Bekele responded to the committee's requests?
The last date of response, to my recollection, could have been yesterday or today. But what I know is that almost all the key witnesses that have been identified have responded positively to our request. I can just check if the former police minister has already responded to agree to to start consultations with us.
But if by yesterday, though, had he responded by yesterday? Because the impression
No,
that was
by
given was
yesterday-
that he wasn't responding to any of the requests that were sent by Parliament.
Yeah. Look, when we write to witnesses, we give them a deadline on which they must have responded, and we also give them the second date on which they must avail themselves for consultations. So by yesterday, when we went to the committee meeting, we haven't as yet received his response.
Can he be subpoenaed, though, if he doesn't comply and respond to the request?
Look, I mean, it depends on the merits of the case. If he is refusing to cooperate, obviously we should have a recourse. But if there is sufficient evidence that he is cooperating with the committee, I don't think there should be any reason to subpoena.
Okay, Soviet Lekganyane, chair of the Ad Hoc Committee investigating the allegations made by the KZN Police Commissioner, Provincial Police Commissioner, Mkhwanazi. Thank you so much for making time for us. Here's a reminder of that question we are asking you tonight. Do you agree with this decision that the committee has taken not to subpoena Mkhwanazi? And which inquiry between the Madlanga Commission and the parliamentary inquiry do you think should take precedence here, especially in the context of accountability, and which of these committees is likely to lead to there being accountability and consequence management? Send us your WhatsApp voice notes. You can also tweet us as well. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. After backlash from political parties, Higher Education Minister Buti Manamela tasked the Public Service Commission to investigate 3 administrators that he appointed to SETAs that he has placed under administration. Their appointments were questioned after it was revealed that they have questionable backgrounds, with some having been accused of wrongdoing in their past work. The Public Service Commission chairperson, Somadoda Fikeni, joins us now via video link. Professor Fikeni, thank you for making time for us. Good evening.
Good evening, and good evening to your viewers.
So the Higher Education Minister asked you as the Public Service Commission to vet these administrators that he appointed to the SETAs that he's placed under administration. Is that vetting done now? What have you found, if it's done?
It's not done. We do have processes that we follow, where our legal and technical teams will require specific documents once the letter requesting us to undertake the assignment has come. So we are at that stage now, and very often we step back and allow those teams to independently go through that process. It's not a process that you would microwave or rush if it needs to be detailed.
Yeah.
That is, in essence, the quality of work that should come out of it.
Yeah, and speaking of microwaving, it seems like the minister rushed the process to appoint these administrators. When were you asked as the Public Service Commission to vet these individuals? And I'm asking this question because it appears he asked you to vet people that he's already appointed. Isn't vetting supposed to be done before appointments are made?
Ideally, that is the case. And when that question was raised, he would say that there were allegations that came after he had moved through and appointed the individuals, and therefore he wanted to be sure that those claims or allegations are tested so that he can further apply his mind. So we are in that process where we've asked for all the documents that will be needed, and our technical teams and legal teams will take the process forward, and we'll hear what comes out of the process.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, had he done a simple vetting process, he would have found out those allegations. I mean, a simple Google search will actually tell you about some of these individuals that he has appointed. But the question I suppose I have is, if the minister is really serious about the vetting of these individuals, why didn't he just reverse their appointments until this vetting process is done? Because my understanding is that they seem to be continuing with their work.
Well, we normally deal with what is presented before us. I wouldn't know what his thinking was. And all what we do, if we're given some work, is simply to verify and have a very detailed analysis and give the feedback. And what is most important, though, which points out to a number of these appointments to the boards, to the councils, it means we do need an overhaul of the process itself. Even the one of the appointment of administrators, it's something that the Public Service Commission has been talking about for some time, because it is quite clear that there are many loopholes. A systematic and standardized approach is needed so that we do not find ourselves in the space where we are.
Yeah. Well, what's your advice, though, to even someone like the minister or other departments to avoid the same thing from happening again? Because you don't want a precedent set here where ministers will make appointments without doing the necessary work of vetting the people that they appoint to positions, and they only act and rope you in as the Public Service Commission when there are questions asked about the credentials and backgrounds of the people that they've appointed.
We are working on a reflection and a framework that possibly will guide this, but it needs to be a process where you do have a panel of experts and where the vetting and the integrity testing is done quite thoroughly, especially in a sensitive space where you bring in an administrator, because very often an administrator will have the powers of the council and sometimes the powers of the CEO. And to that extent, to concentrate the powers in one individual, it means that particular individual should be in a very solid ground and everything should be in the clear, because they are brought in to turn the situation around.
Yeah.
Therefore, they cannot, if there is a number of questions, have the space to operate as freely as they should. So it's one of the things that need a revisit and a new system that is standardized.
Yeah. And how much leeway do you have here, though, as the Public Service Commission? Can you, if you go, do you do this work and you come back and you say, actually, the people you've appointed, there are questionable backgrounds, they were involved in some kind of wrongdoing in the past, there are questions around their work in the past. Do you have powers to say to the minister, we recommend that you reverse the appointments, or all you can do is to present a report to him?
We would present the report to him, and where there are negative things coming up, would say these are negative things,
okay,
which will be at variance with the work to be done. Then the minister would apply his mind thereafter. But let's allow the process itself and see where it takes us and how it actually follows with our legal teams once they work on the matters presented to them.
Okay, let's talk about the professionalization of the public service now. You are hosting a memorial lecture on Saturday under the theme Professional and Ethical Public Sector, a Catalyst for a Developmental State. Have we arrived at a place where we have an ethical and development-oriented public service? Because that's what essentially you need for a capable state.
We have not arrived. That's why we are actually launching this inaugural lecture. That's why you have a framework for professionalization. That's why you have the Public Service Commission bill being before Parliament to be given some powers. So it is the beginning of a journey, having learned from our mistakes as a country, because we started so well, and at some point we seem to have taken an off-ramp to a point where we saw patronage. We saw sometimes some appointments done on the basis of loyalty instead of competence. We saw corruption and many other things. So the professionalization that we talk about is an aspirational goal rather than something that is already there.
I actually saw a story on the Daily Maverick today of the current Chief of Staff in the Office of the Minister of Social Development, Sisi Tolashe. This Chief of Staff is 22 years old. She happens to be the niece of the Minister's Special Advisor, Ngwaku Khatla. and her qualifications for the role are questionable. She has a diploma in information technology from the Rosebank College in Limpopo. Her CV reveals that she has 1 year's experience as manager, sales and marketing for the same college in Limpopo. Her duties included distributing promotional materials and providing information about the college. And this is a person who is now the chief of staff for a minister at a salary of about 1.4 million rand annually in taxpayers' money. I mean, these things surely don't help. They don't help to push this professionalization of the public service you speak of.
It is for that reason that you do have the public protector, the Public Service Commission. If there are cases of that nature which may be questionable, they are brought in and be tested with evidence. We have been able, where there is wrongdoing, to reverse such appointments. That's what we do all the time. If processes have not been followed and so forth. But we wait until we get the evidence.
Yeah.
And as such, we have never really done this with any fear or any favor or prejudice. It doesn't matter how senior or how low the position might be in the public sector.
And this matter hasn't landed on your desk to investigate? Because also this woman's uncle, who is the advisor to the minister, he actually previously worked for the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, also under Minister Tolashe. And he was charged with 3 counts of gross misconduct when it was discovered that in addition to his job in Tolashe's office, he was also working for another government entity, the Northwest Transport Investments Trading. And allegedly, he drew salaries from both workplaces without disclosing it, which is a contravention of the Public Service Act. And nothing has happened to him. And he is now the minister's advisor and has now brought in his niece to come and be a chief of staff at the age of 22 with 1 year of experience. It's like people are doing as they please in government with no accountability.
Well, if you look at our reports, you'll realize that there is some degree of accountability. It's not without a pushback, where we have acted once cases are presented and we find something wrong. And sometimes we're prepared to even go to court where you find resistance. We do subpoena even witnesses and so forth. So once that is presented before us, we do act. As of now, I can't confirm that it has come before us because sometimes people will call the anti-corruption hotline and it is handled by competent panels without necessarily being taken via the chairperson or the commissioners.
Okay. I really hope that the matter does end up on the desk and really gets investigated. Professor Somadoda Fikeni, thank you so much for speaking to us on Face the Nation tonight. All right, let's go to some of your tweets and WhatsApp voice notes in response to the question we've been asking tonight around the decision the ad hoc committee took yesterday not to subpoena Mkhwanazi. Bono says it's a good decision because he's going to be the first one to be called in to give evidence in the Madlanga Commission that starts next week. This parliamentary inquiry can wait. Sidwell says the commission that is supposed to interview Mkhwanazi first is that of the Madlanga because it was established first before the ad hoc committee. Rabotata says, I fully agree with the parliament not to subpoena Mkhwanazi. The Madlanga Commission must be given a chance. After all, I trust the Madlanga Commission because it is headed by a credible lawyer who will unearth the truth. And of course, after he has appeared at the Madlanga Commission, and then he will appear before the parliamentary inquiry where he will be asked questions and there will be a report that is produced and Parliament has to vote on that particular report. Here's what some of you have said on the voice note line.
Good evening, Clement. It's Taviso here from Jacobsdal, Richie. I honestly doesn't agree with the committee's decision not to subpoena the general. The parliamentary committee takes precedence here. It is a very, very important committee. It will hold the general accountable or the people implicated, which the general has mentioned in this particular issue. So that other commission will just make a recommendation, which is not really, really important. So I think General Mkhwanazi must come to the forth and provide the evidence that he said. We need to put this matter to bed. It's a very, very big matter. Dango.
I am anonymous from Gezina. I think Parliament Ad Hoc Committee must take precedence because its findings are bindings, whereas the Madlanga Commission is just a commission which findings will never see any light of day. Never, 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 not in Ramaphosa's period. Bye.
Welcome back. A number of artists have called for the dissolution of the South African Music Rights Organization, that's SAMRO, their board, following reports of financial mismanagement. Reports suggest that artists are not receiving their royalties and that some board members are misusing the funds for personal gain. Now, there are allegations that there is serious abuse of power within the organization. Let's speak to artist and poet Mzwakhe Mbuli now, who joins us in studio, and then we'll bring in the CEO of SAMRO. Mr. Mkhwanazi Mbuli, thank you so much for making time. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Clement.
So, what exactly are the issues with SAMRO that you guys are raising as artists? What's happening?
We have another Papita Dwarkaram story, but fortunately she is alive. Mkhwanazi Fikeni. It's the whole thing. Not to talk about too many things. It's about 60 million that was defrauded, went missing, or not missing into thin air. But board members, out of 60 million, 30 million went to 3 board members. Now, everybody knows, this country talks about commissions. Forensic report, people who have degrees know what am I talking about. A forensic report had to be conducted, and the outcome is that there are members of the board that are implicated. So 30 million went to the 3 members of the board. So this is loud and clear. So everybody, if Sound has got 25,000 members, composers, writers, people should know exactly the outcome. It must be made public to you guys, everyone. Mm-hmm. This country is a democracy. But somebody is using a thumb to say, no, the investigating officer, because there's a case open, the investigating officer said it should not be made public. In a court of law, yes, if something is sub judice, we'll respect the courts. But for now, the issue is not before the courts. So the case has been opened. This Mkhwanazi Fikeni opened the case at Hillbrow Police Station. Whilst this thing was happening, the investigation, because I think, let me say this.
So she's the whistleblower? She's
the whistleblower. She came at SAMRO 2021, and she realized that the undocumented royalties were just out, there was just a fish pond, what do you call it? It's a pool of people who were actually defrauding the money that belongs to either Brenda Fassie, Miriam Makeba, Steve Kekan, whoever who is alive or and dead. So it's the money that belongs not to these guys. It's not their personal money. It's money that actually comes from people who have used their God-given talents, Clement. So I'm saying they thought this lady was a problem, like the Papita. Problem in the sense that these guys were having a Christmas party, Christmas lunch bonuses. She stood between the board members and this particular money because there is unclaimed, some people say unclaimed royalties, undocumented royalties. So some have gone overseas, even the CEO with the family, it's on the report. And again, there's overseas thing fixed called, there's another 11 million that this lady has discovered that it disappeared within the halls of SAMRO. 11 million. So besides the 60 million. Now, her car was broken into, the SAMRO laptop was taken away or stolen. Whether this is related or not, she's intimidated. She's told she's gagged as we speak. She's not supposed to speak to either media. She's not supposed to speak to us artist members. Now, unless it's a mafia, there's a culture of intimidation. This poor woman, usually this kind is sensitive when a woman has been touched, change her pace. But we are just fortunate for now that Mkhwanazi Fikeni is alive.
That she's still alive. Yeah. And I'll be asking the CEO about that.
And okay, maybe I should also say this. The board members wanted a motion, an amnesty to pardon those who are implicated to this 60 million report. Okay?
They wanted an amnesty?
Yes, and then they are influencing the change of policies within SAMRO. the board members who were implicated were asked to recuse themselves, either no longer to attend the board members. Deliberately they attend. You'll ask the CEO. They attend as though it's business as usual.
Sure. One of the things that they said at the other day when they were trying to hold a press briefing was that there are certain individuals and artists whose music is no longer on high rotation, so their money isn't paid, so there's nothing they can do about that. So that becomes their justification.
Does it mean then they must chow the money? Does it mean they must eat the money? You can find charity organization, you can donate money to disabled organization in this country, not to steal the money. They are lucky. If I was there yesterday, I was going to turn the tables upside down, the laptops were going to go down. So I'm just saying, Clement, does it mean if some money has not been claimed? Obviously, we've got Maskandis, we've got people who have passed on, people who could not know in the rural areas how to fill up the forms, how to reach SAMRO, because SAMRO is based at number 22, Decorte Street in Braamfontein. And these guys, 2024, they've made a decision, they've misled the media. They've taken a decision to sell that building for student accommodation at Braamfontein. So there are things that are in black and white. And in the report of Mkhwanazi Fikeni, and she went again to the Hawks for protection. I think, I thought coming here is to appeal, among others, to the portfolio committee of arts and culture in Parliament to come to the rescue of this. This lady is under guard as we speak. So what kind of a country is this? Are we, as I say, we can't have a situation where even your constitution does not protect you. So everything is meaningless for her. Imagine being a family person, living a life where you are looking over your shoulder, and not because you've committed any crime or sin. You've been discovering crime committed within people, even the one of a board member of Villegas, Dr. Villegas, who used the money unethically. She's an ethical committee chairperson, but has used the money that belonged to artists to launch a book.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Okay, let's hear from the CEO. Mzwakhe, thank you so much for coming through.
Yeah.
We're going to bring in the CEO now and ask some of these questions. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. Let's continue this conversation around what's happening at SAMRO. I'm now joined by the CEO of SAMRO, Annabelle Lebete, in studio. Annabelle, thank you so much for making time for us. Good evening.
Good evening, Clement. Thank you for having me.
So some of the things that I've just heard now from Mkhwanazi really surprised me.
Yes.
And I want us to start with the forensic report and what it has found. Has there been money that's been defrauded in SAMRO?
Okay. So around 2022, the team, October 2022, the team discovered that there were irregular claims being made in terms of what we call the Undocumented Works Fund. And I'll come back to what Undocumented Works Fund is, because I know that Mkhwanazi mentioned a bit. And so the team escalated it to the board and said, I think there were two instances that came to their attention. The team, obviously, as is the obligation, escalated it to the board. The board was worried, and the board said, it seems like we have to take this seriously enough to institute a forensic audit so that we know the extent of what this problem is. They did appoint Fundudzi Forensic Services, who conducted the forensic audit. What Fundudzi discovered is, at the time, what formed the basis of the investigation was that 60 million rands had been claimed by members. So our members are composer author members, and they're also publisher members.
Okay.
60 million was paid. Of that 60 million, 30 million was paid out, right? So there's a 60 million claim, there's a 30 million payout. Of the 30 million that was paid out, it was determined that 3.4 million was what was irregular. So the 30 million that was paid out, less the 3.4, so you've got about 26.6 million rand that was not determined to have been irregularly
So it went
benefited.
to the people that it was due to?
Yes,
Okay.
right? So the 3.4 itself was part of the process that then was reported to members at the end of the 2023 AGM.
Okay.
And of that 60 million that was claimed, the list of members that formed part of the investigation was the top 60 composer, author members and publisher members who had made a claim into the undocumented works pot. So we're talking about 3.4 million. And the rest of it, the report did not deem to have been irregularly claimed or that there was any undue benefit that was derived from this process. But most importantly, I think I must say that obviously fraud is perpetrated by two people.
Yeah.
So the report did determine that there was a former member of staff who obviously facilitated or assisted in these irregular claims that were then paid out to
Okay,
members.
so just to go back, so 60 million rand was claimed.
Yes.
30 million rand was paid out.
Yes.
Out of that 30 million rand, there's an irregular of about
3.4.
What happens
Yes.
to the remaining other 30 million?
So the other 30 million was obviously held back by the company.
Okay.
Right? So
and
we
it's
know
still within the
yes,
company?
it's still within our undocked pot at SAMRO.
Okay.
So whatever was not paid out, and rightly so, when the staff realized that this activity was happening, there were freezes that were put onto the processing of these claims.
Okay.
So the balance of it remained within the coffers of the
So
organization.
this 3 point whatever
3.4.
that they picked up their irregularities, do we know who are the people that benefited from that and who is the staff member that was responsible and where is that staff member now?
So we do know the member of staff because the report speaks specifically to the member of staff who subsequently left the organization. As I understand, he went to a publisher and I think 2 publishers. I'm not sure where he is currently. But at the end of the forensic report, and there's a particular piece of legislation that requires, once there's a threshold, if you know of any corruption above 100,000 rand, you have to report it to the police. So at the time when this came to light, we did lodge a criminal case with the police, and the report formed the basis of what the police is currently investigating.
So what happened to the COO, Molapi Fikeni? Is she the one that exposed this irregularities?
No, Ms. Mofiko did not expose the irregularities. So it was staff within the department that deals with the claims that reported this to Ms. Mofiko, who is the COO at SAMRO, and she then reported it to the board. Because obviously there's an escalation from sort of management to executive management and to the board, and it was ultimately the board that then
So
took
why
that
was she
decision.
suspended then?
The suspension had nothing to do with the forensic audit at all. So there were other areas of misconduct that we determined needed warranted suspension.
But she was submitted after she had raised the issues of irregularities.
So remember the forensic audit itself was discovered sort of October 2022, and Ms. Mofiko was placed on suspension on the 4th of August 2025. So that time lapse cannot be associated with her findings or alleged findings of the irregularities at SAMRO.
So irregularities were picked up back then, and you laid criminal charges already back then?
In 2023, yes.
Did you communicate to the members, artists and people who are members of SAMRO around what the forensic report found?
So in December 2023, at our annual general meeting, the forensic auditors who were commissioned to undertake the exercise came to the AGM, and we requested that they, as understanding the methodology and processes that led to them determining certain conclusions, presented to the members. What we didn't present to the members was the detail as to it's Annabelle and Clement who perpetrated this fraud. Because when we went to the police, and what is still the caution that has been presented by the police, is guys, we want to investigate in a way that there is no pressure. So we're asking you or cautioning you against releasing the report to allow us to investigate. And we've said to members, we're just acting under caution, but we haven't gone to the detail of it was Annabelle, it was Clement, this is what
Are
they
there
found.
any board members of SAMRO who benefited from that irregularity of was it 3.5 million rand?
So the report does say there was a former board member, but he's not a board member. Yes, the report does implicate two board members.
And they're no longer?
They're no longer board members.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are artists that have been complaining, as you've seen yesterday at the press briefing, who are saying we're not receiving our royalties.
Yes.
What's going on? Why are they not receiving that? And I know in some cases maybe their songs are not on high rotation, as you've said before, but are we dealing with a situation where there are artists, there's money due to them and it's not getting to them because of governance failures at SAMRO or corruption?
Right. No, I actually I think that's a good question and I'd like to dispel it. First and foremost to say that if we look at where we are currently with money that's available for distribution, we're sitting at about 622 million that has to go out in terms of the distributions. We pay out distributions for live shows, for broadcasting, for digital and video on demand services. And so that is money that we make available to distribute once we've collected money, right? There's also another pot of money coming back then to UNDOC and trying to explain what UNDOC is. where we don't get sufficient information from the music users. The law says it's the user's responsibility to disclose what music they've used for how long. Where we don't have the full detail around music usage, when, for example, the SABC will submit the cue sheets, we then put that money aside. And we say to members, this is the undocked pot. We say to members, please go into the portal. Please identify works that belong to you, because we don't want this liability as a company. It sits in our income statement. We don't want it as a liability. So when members go into the undocked portal, they can say, this is my song, this is my song, this is my song. I wrote it with Clement, I wrote it with Annabelle. This is the splits in terms of ownership of that song. When they submit their claim, we have to obviously validate it. Right? I think after that forensic audit process, what we had to do was improve our internal controls to make sure that we are paying the rightful owners of that particular work. Once we satisfied that and we validated the claim, we pay out.
Okay.
We really are intent on reducing what is available in UNDOC.
How often do you meet with the artists? Because it really feels like some of them have lost confidence of even the board of SAMRO. How do you resolve this? Because there's serious frustrations here.
As often as is needed. So, for example, we have a standing annual general meeting. Before the annual general meeting, we'll normally have a pre-member engagement to talk about these sort of issues, that are not necessarily going to land in the formal agenda of an annual general meeting. But on a day-to-day basis, members know that they've got access to the organization either through the department that is dedicated to servicing members, and even with the board, and through my office as well. So we've always maintained a relationship with members where they can access the company through the management team, through the consultants, through any member of staff dedicated to managing that particular member's portfolio. So it is not, it's not correct that we don't engage with members. I think we engage with members. Even after yesterday, I had a sit down with the very same members that disrupted afterwards, later on in the day. And we were talking about what are the issues, what do we need to resolve? It was issues around the MOI, the EGMs, what processes they need to institute. So we're always available. I work for a member-based organization and I cannot run away from members.
Annabelle Lebete, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for watching the Thursday edition of Face the Nation. We'll be back with you on Tuesday next week at 8 p.m. Have a good evening. Cheers.